r/AskMen. Must Savamam says, how can I make life better for my fiance who works 100 plus hours/week and is burnt out? I've been with my fiance for 8 years, living together for 3. He works in an extremely competitive industry and is very successful at what he does. I'm very proud of him, and while, of course, I miss his presence, I'm happy to help him with the lifestyle his career choice imposes on our relationship. Much like everyone in his industry, he periodically experiences serious burnout, but is not in a position to take a career break or has no desire to change industries. He sits on his computer all day, gets little sleep, and is online basically 24/7. He can't commit to any plans with himself, his friends, family or me because they may, and mostly do, get cancelled last minute. Not having any time for himself or the things that make him happy naturally takes a huge toll on him. He is the unhappiest he has been in a long time. His health has gone down the drain. He is in physical pain or feels some type of sore all the time. I cook our meals and follow a healthy diet in general, but we drink and he snacks a lot during the long nights he has to work. My question is, how can I make life better for him? Small or big? To help him get through days or to help him embrace some small changes that can impact his health for the better? Any advice is more than welcome, including to just leave him alone. Wilt von Lex says, enjoy the early retirement when the stress got him and works himself to death. I mean it, if he isn't saving lives, no job is worth working 24/7. Burr Success says, even if he is saving lives, his company needs to hire others to help save lives so he can get some time off and rest. No job is worth 100 plus hours a week. Absolutely frick that. Nausicaa says, I don't think any job is worth 40 plus hours either, tbh. Superpam 111 says, what's the point of all his efforts if he's miserable or dead? He seriously needs to reevaluate his priorities in life. Lith Albucan says, it's a decision I had to make as a software engineer, and I'm all the happier for it. At a small company, where I probably make 15-30k less than I could, but my current company is very low stress, and I often only actually work 30 hours. Virtually never get called after hours, and our entire team is competent, but very relaxed. I cannot imagine not having spare time for life. I have time to stay in shape, renovate our home, have a social life, and many hobbies. It would take a lot for me to give up some of those things for more cash and stress. Guna 712,004 says, same boat, senior software developer, and I don't even have to manage anyone, fully remote, earn 10-20k less than I could working hybrid in my city, but my situation is so chill and flexible, it's worth it. My money situation is more than fine, and I make my money work for me anyway. Suitable Cycle 4335 says, I'm sorry, but if you work 100 plus hours a week you failed him ho. John Dess says, that equates to working 14-hour days 7 days a week. Even in pre-industrial revolution times people would be saying, dude, you need to chill out. Dad Purple says, 168 hours in a week. 8 hours a night is 56 hours. Dude has 12 hours a week to enjoy himself. But she wrote 100 plus, so he most likely doesn't have any free time. That is a miserable existence. Mavlearn CS says, he's unhappy, unhealthy, has no time, and cannot make any sort of social plans. There is nothing you can do other than communicate. He needs to look at his life and get a grip. Scott Mtp says, the only solution is that he has to get a different job or cut his hours. Jetson Bombers 0707 says, but the life still ie. Enraist says, sounds like he values his work more than he does his health, family, friends. There's not much you can do about that, besides having an earnest conversation about it. Smellerhand says. Right where my head went. Seems like he has chosen his current, emphasis on current, priority, sad enough as it is to say. Cause there's also a thought he might think he has to do this for his family. But some silver lining here, it'll organically cease at some point. Some people might be superhuman in a lot of ways, but 100 hours a week will burn him out. At least in my humble opinion. Reasonable Long 1079 says. WTF industry regularly works 100 hours in a week. Chanandlabang01 says. Doctors doing their residencies at hospitals. Although it's starting to move closer to 80 hours these days than 100. Cavalier Saber says. Although it's starting to move closer to 80 hours these days than 100. They frick, I'm better. It's objectively impossible to fully trust a doctor that spent the entire first part of their career exhausted, miserable, and on the verge of burning out. It's literally and indisputably impossible for someone to retain all the information and training they needed under those conditions. Maybe this is why so many doctors are, frick, up weirdos off the clock. r/AskMen. Boltinadist says. What's one of those once you see it, you'll never not see it things? My favorite is the center of this word, homeowana. There's a meow in the middle. Every Disaster 7018 says. I've noticed this one. Once I buy a certain brand and model of car. I go from rarely seeing it to always seeing it. Probably doesn't fully apply to your question, but I hope it's close enough. Samurai Catfight says. Mother-in-law naked. Yup, walked in on her twice thinking it was my wife in the bathroom. Damn fine looking at age 50. Molten Dragon says. Damn fine looking at age 50. That bodes well for your wife's looks as she ages. Samurai Catfight says. Considering that was 30 years ago, and my wife is now in her 50s, yes, my wife looks great. Appalachian Operator says. The arrow in FedEx. Fast Casserole AF Life says. Walking in on your finance getting, frick, ed by a guy in your bed in your house. It's the reason I remain single to this very day. Acrobatics Loth 657 says. David Bowie's crotch in Labyrinth. Molten Dragon says. Once you've seen a partner give birth, you'll never unsee that. It's not necessarily a bad thing, but it'll always be in your head. Carl Just Carol says. A loved one laying on a gurney with a sheet over their head. The wrong guy says. I saw my dad literally die right before my eyes on a hospital bed. Pulse Redditusaname says. All of the telephone poles and wires running everywhere over your head on every street. Your eye usually just tunes them out, but once you notice them, you can't stop. And they really look rather ugly. Ferlian says. The systemic oppression of minorities and outgroups. Once you really learn about it, you realize you have been seeing it every day for your entire life and just never noticed. Like a magic eye puzzle that suddenly snaps into focus. The exact ways it occurs differs depending on the country and culture, but it is always there. Corian says. The official MLB logo is a bird playing baseball. It makes me laugh now when I see it. Substantial Mine 414 says. A dead body. When I was a little boy in the 70s, my dad and I stumbled upon a decomposing body along a bank of the Susquehanna River in Pennsylvania. Well, our dog found it, then the dog got my attention to get me over there. We were upwind. Not a good thing to see when you're like 6 years old. I ran over to the dog first so my dad didn't have time to intercept me. It's a vivid, early memory that never goes away. I can still recall the smell as I sit here typing this. It's just different. Maybe putrid, sickly sweet comes to mind. Even a skunk would find it offensive. Both Awareness 8561 says. That old ducks don't have beaks, just tiny dog masks. Chicks 213 says. 2 girls and a cup. Can't unsee that shit. The Snee says. Some of the finer artifacting that happens in digital video. For instance, macro-blocking artifacts and or posterization. Don't look it up. Enjoy the blissful ignorance of not detecting any quality issues with video streams on your streaming subscription services. It Got a Name says. Back in the early 1970s I saw a man shot and killed on a sidewalk in Albuquerque. Redditor PC says. Colonel Sanders' tie in the KFC logo makes it look like he has a tiny little stick body. Electrical Ad 1798 says. One of my legs is just a little shorter than the other, but I didn't realize it for decades. It's pretty noticeable now that I know it, but it's not enough that it presents any problems. That's all for this video. Thank you for watching. Please subscribe.